pull up a chair and get comfortable, because this story is 100% real. It happened back in 2006 in my hometown, Cheongju. To really get the vibe, you have to picture Korea in 2006. No smartphones, just MP3 players and those old school flip phones. But there's one thing about Korea that stayed the same: the insane academic pressure. First, the midnight walkers.
Imagine being 12 or 13 years old and staying at a private prep school, we call them hagwons, until midnight, every single night. It's like SAT prep on steroids. The air in those rooms is thick with chalk dust and the hum of flickering fluorescent lights. For us, midnight wasn't party time. It was just when school ended.
It was a humid summer night, the kind where the air feels like a wet blanket. I was walking home around 12:10 a.m., my backpack digging into my shoulders. The streetlights were buzzing and blinking like they were gasping for air. It was just me in the silence. Second, the corridor to nowhere. I lived in a corridor-style apartment. You've seen those old-school motels in movies where all the room doors open to an outside walkway? It's exactly like that, but 15 stories high. One side is just a long row of front doors, and the other is a waist-high railing looking out into the abyss. I got to the lobby, and the elevator, which was idling on the 4th floor, started coming down before I even touched the button. Whir! The sound was deafening in the quiet lobby. When the doors opened, it was empty, but I got this massive chill. You know that feeling when the hair on your neck stands up? I felt like the space behind me in the elevator mirror was deeper than it should be.
I got off on the 7th floor. Now in Korea, these hallways have motion sensor lights. They're supposed to go click, click, click as you walk. But that night, nothing. It stayed pitch black. The only light was the pale, sickly moonlight hitting the concrete floor. Then I heard it behind me. Sss. The elevator doors opened again. No one was there to get off. I froze. I couldn't turn around. But at the very end of the long hallway, near the emergency exit, I saw a dark shape huddled on the floor. At first, I thought it was a pile of old clothes. Then it started to stand up. Crack, crunch, snap. It sounded like someone was snapping a bunch of dry branches, but it was coming from inside that thing. It stood up, and dude, it was easily 7 feet tall. It was so tall its head hit the hallway ceiling, so its neck was snapped sideways at a 90-degree angle. It looked at me with that broken neck dangling and started sprinting toward me with this jerky, doll-like movement. I straight up bolted. I hammered on my door, screaming for my mom. The second she opened it, I dove inside, and I felt this massive thud of air pressure hit the door right as it slammed shut. Third, the face in the bars. After that, I stopped staying late at school, but the horror had already followed me home. A few days later, it was a sweltering afternoon. My brother was out, my mom was napping on the couch, and I was in my brother's room watching a talk show on TV. It was loud and funny, a total safe vibe. Then I heard it from the hallway outside the window. Thump, thump. A heavy, wet-sounding footstep. In these apartments, the bedroom windows look out onto that public walkway, so we have these metal security bars to keep burglars out. I glanced at the window, and my heart stopped. There was a man standing there with his back to the window, but his head was rotated 180 degrees, staring straight at me. His neck was twisted like a wet towel. His eyes were mostly white, with tiny black pupils darting around like crazy. Then, they locked onto mine. Suddenly, I was hit with gawi. That's what we call sleep paralysis, but but in Korea, we believe it's a ghost literally pinning your body down. I was wide awake, but I couldn't even blink. The thing started sliding its long, pale fingers through the metal bars, scratching the glass. Scree, scree. It was grinning with no lips, just yellow teeth. I could almost smell the metallic, rotten scent of its breath. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. Ding dong. That electronic sound snapped me out of it. I screamed and ran to the living room. Mom opened the door, but the hallway was empty. If someone had run away, I would have heard their footsteps echoing on the concrete. But there was nothing but the sound of cicadas. Fourth, the mimic. The thing was getting smarter. It wasn't just lurking outside anymore. It was learning our faces. One night I saw my brother walk out of his room, look at me with this blank, mannequin-like stare, and walk straight into my room without saying a word. "Hey, what are you doing in there?" I yelled. I followed him and flipped the light switch. The room was empty. The window was locked. No way out. But my desk chair was spinning, creak, as if someone had just hopped off it. Right then, my actual brother walked out of the bathroom, yawning. "Why are you yelling? I'm trying to sleep." I felt a cold shiver go down my spine. Whatever walked into my room wasn't my brother. It was a mimic, and it was already inside the house, waiting for me to let my guard down. Fifth, the Reaper's guest list. A few days before the big event, I had a dream. I was back in my old 4th grade classroom, but all my friends were wearing white funeral robes. The back door opened, and 2 men walked in. One was Chosung Saja. That's our version of the Grim Reaper. He doesn't carry a scythe, though. He wears a traditional black robe and a gat, that iconic wide-brimmed black hat from the samurai-era dramas. He carries a ledger with the names of the dead. He pointed his finger straight at me. I tried to scream, but my friends just turned their heads in unison. Their mouths didn't move, but the whole room filled with this creepy, echoing chant. "It's okay. It's okay. It'll be over soon." I woke up screaming, pointing at the ceiling. My mom was terrified. She thought I was sleepwalking or losing my mind. Sixth, ancestors and the gut feeling. Then came Chuseok. It's like the Korean Thanksgiving. It's a huge deal where families gather to honor their ancestors. We believe our ancestors' spirits actually come back to protect us during this time. My family was supposed to drive all the way down to Busan to visit my grandparents. Normally, I loved this trip because I'd get tons of cash from relatives. But that morning, I had this overwhelming, bad vibe. Every time I tried to get in the car, I felt like I couldn't breathe. My gut was screaming at me to stay at my uncle's house nearby, what we call the big house of the family. I threw a massive fit and refused to go. Finally, my parents gave up and left me there. The next morning, I woke up to my aunt crying. My family's car had been totaled in a massive pileup on the highway. The car had flipped multiple times. The back seat, the exact spot where I always laid down and slept, was crushed flat. The roof was touching the floor. The cops told my dad later, if there was a kid in that seat, they would have been gone instantly. Later, a friend of mine who's sensitive to the spirit world told me that the ghost from the apartment had been clinging to our family, waiting for a chance to take me. That dream about the Reaper? I was already on the list. But on Chuseok, when we set out the food for our ancestors, they realized what was happening. That gut feeling that kept me out of the car, that wasn't me. That was my ancestors literally yanking me out of that car to save my life. We moved out of that apartment right after the accident. On moving day, I looked up at the 7th floor walkway one last time. There, behind the bars of my brother's old room, I saw a head dangling upside down, watching us leave. It was smiling. A wide, terrifying grin that said, "I'll see you in your dreams. So man, if you're ever in Korea and you're walking down a long, dark apartment hallway, if the sensor lights don't turn on, do not look up. It's not a dead bulb. It's someone blocking the light, looking down at you.